I found myself in a book as Mary, a stunningly beautiful, evil side character. I had a gorgeous face and billions of dollars. But when the protagonist, Betty, was crying in front of me, I hit her while wearing my 8-centimeter heels. Get lost. When my fiancé Ben came asking for an explanation, I smacked him too. You get lost too. Katie told me there was a new transfer student at school while I was enjoying my luxurious afternoon tea. I kept my cool, but everyone else got a bit worked up. Oh really? The girl next to me, looking all put together, covered her mouth in shock, with a hint of amusement in her eyes. When did our school start taking in people like that? Apparently, she has great grades, and Katie paused, glancing at me. She was the one who saved Ben at the pull-in bridge last month, which is why he agreed to her transfer. As soon as she said that, everyone turned their eyes to me. Calmly, I wiped my mouth with a napkin, acting like I hadn't heard the news. Ben was the fiancé of the novel's protagonist and supposedly its main lead. Reading this book, I never understood why a proud, beautiful woman would like someone so principle-less and pretentious. Even more mysterious was why she couldn't outsmart Betty, the weak protagonist. I angrily wrote hundreds of words criticizing the author for not understanding what a real heiress is. Then, bam, I woke up as this despised evil character. Thinking of the annoying stuff that was about to happen, I fixed my makeup and got up to leave. Our first meeting came sooner than expected. Before I knew it, the slim girl in front of me accidentally spilled coffee all over Ben. Even Katie, holding my bag, was shocked. It was my first time actually seeing my fiancé. He was in a car crash when I arrived and had recently recovered. As for his looks, well, he was okay, for the main character. I'm so sorry, Betty stammered, pale with fear, pulling out tissues to clean Ben's soaked uniform. I couldn't help but chuckle, clearly mocking them. Ben frowned, stepping back as if hearing my laughter. He looked up, meeting my unfriendly gaze. Betty turned too, letting me see her face properly. Pale with misty eyes, making her look oh so dainty. I didn't linger, walking casually past the coffee spill into my classroom. I just frowned at the cheap smell, as low class as her whole persona. Ben showed some mercy to this transfer student, or she would have been kicked out sooner. Lily, one of Mary's few friends in the book, fiddled with her new nails, occasionally chatting with me. But there was an unmistakable hint of schadenfreude. Don't you think Betty's got a Cinderella script? Aren't you worried about your fiancé? If I remember correctly, I said, looking sideways at her. Your guy Harry is now her desk mate. What? Lily shot up. I said no girls can be his desk mate. Watching her dash off in her stiletto heels, I couldn't help but smile. For the next few days, I let the main characters develop their romance. When Betty got into trouble with bullies, Ben saved her. When she was mocked for her accent, Ben tutored her English. Rumors about Ben and the transfer student Betty started spreading. Everyone was waiting to see my reaction as Ben's fiancé. But before I said anything, my followers had already given Betty a hard time. By the third time she was trapped in the bathroom, Ben finally found her. So, you're lecturing your fiancé over a commoner? Manchester is an arena of power and fame, where the most powerful kids get some privileges. Like this exclusive lounge. Lounges have their own hierarchies too. I lay back in the massage chair, eyes closed, hearing Ben's cold voice questioning me. He seemed to only just remember our engagement, his expression turning sour. You don't have to hold on to Betty like this, he said. Betty? Who is she? I mocked, finally opening my eyes. Betty stood at the door with Ben's jacket wrapped around her, paling further as she looked down in shame. Betty hasn't done anything to you, even if you look down on her, he started. No, I cut in. I look down on everyone equally. I replied, calm and collected. This is not a place for you, so leave. News that Ben fought Mary for Betty reached my ears. I incredulously asked, do I seem like someone who would argue with others? Katie paused for a second, then nodded. He seemed about to say something when he looked oddly at the door. Following his gaze, I saw Betty. She appeared nervous, but determined, biting her lip as she ignored the sudden silence of the classroom to walk up to me. Mary, she said, fists clenched, I know you're mad at Ben, but he's troubled by all this too. Ben's a good guy, he only wants to help me. There's nothing going on like you think. If I upset you, I'm sorry. She then placed a simple, yet thoughtfully arranged box of treats in front of me. I watched her, expressionless, more interested in examining my manicure. But seeing the box of treats, I scanned her with a strange look. Are you trying to provoke me? I asked, my eyes showing pure disdain. Under her nervous gaze, I removed my rimless glasses. Seeing my favorite book crushed beneath her oily treats, soiled beyond help, I snapped. Taking a tissue from Lily's desk, I casually picked up the box. Then, without a second thought, I tossed it back at her. She staggered for a moment. Even though the snacks only weighed a little, she acted like she'd been hit with a boulder. You. Betty glared at me angrily but quickly lowered her head when I stared her down. Didn't Ben tell you to stop messing with me? I smirked and looked down at her retrieving the snacks scattered on the ground. Lily, standing off to the side, was having a blast watching the drama unfold. She even dragged her boyfriend Harry into it. Leaning lazily against him, she laughed unrestrained. What an idiot. Those snacks are probably worth less than a tissue of mine. Giving such trash to Mary? Really? Katie chimed in, marveling, first time seeing something like this. Our classmates, all from wealthy backgrounds, saw right through Betty's behavior and couldn't help joining in. Betty trembled all over, deeply humiliated. She quickly gathered up the snacks and fled, covering her face. After that incident, she never dared approach me again. Maybe the warning she got from me in the lounge that time kept Ben from stepping in for her. Saved me some trouble, really. But with the engagement between us, running into each other was inevitable. So, when my mom and I walked into a fancy restaurant, I wasn't surprised to see who was sitting across. Ben's mom was there too, a well-preserved, elegant woman. She started with some warm greetings, then mildly scolded, Ben, why didn't you greet Mary? I smiled innocently, it's okay, Auntie. Ben's just a bit slow to warm up. Mary here needs to teach him a thing or two. Despite not talking much with Ben, the atmosphere was pretty pleasant, with our moms going back and forth. But suddenly, I raised an eyebrow, noticing Betty standing not far off with a tray, looking stunned. Pretending to be confused, I pouted, Auntie, I feel a bit hungry. Naturally, Ben's mom did what I wanted and waved Betty over. When Betty approached, Ben was visibly startled. Is the food ready? His mom asked her. When she stood there dumbfounded, Ben's mom frowned, didn't you hear me? Betty quickly snapped out of it and apologized profusely. The restaurant manager came over, apologizing, sorry about that, she's an intern and still learning the ropes. I smiled gently, Auntie, she's a classmate from school. Ben interrupted, Mary. I blinked innocently, isn't she your friend? Ben's mom listened to my words and glanced at Ben. Her expression was kind, but there was a hint of something darker in her eyes. After dinner, Ben's mom asked him to take me to the airport to pick up my brother coming back from abroad. It took me a moment to remember who this brother was. Ivan, a child my dad adopted. He grew up abroad and hadn't been back since. Lounging lazily in the front seat, I could feel the tension in Ben as he finally asked, does this amuse you? You like her? I adjusted my little Chanel-inspired dress and, seeing him silent, chuckled softly. How weak. When I finally laid eyes on my so-called brother, I was genuinely taken aback. The man had black, soft hair neatly cut, eyes deep as night, and carried himself with an air like fresh snowfall. Even with his composed demeanor, there was a chill about him. In comparison, Ben, who was usually impressive, seemed thoroughly overshadowed. Tucking my hair behind my ears, I stood gracefully, making no move to help Ivan with his luggage. Seeing Ben frozen too, I didn't hesitate to order, don't just stand there, grab the luggage. Ben, at his wit's end with me, complied. Ivan took one more look at the sister he hadn't seen in years. Under the bright airport lights, my flawless face and well-fitted attire caught his attention. Realizing his gaze, his eyes narrowed slightly, lips preparing to say something biting. Ivan stepped in quickly, saying, long time no see, you've grown more beautiful. My mind stalled for a second, then I choked a bit, though I clearly enjoyed it. Turning my head, I finally walked towards him. A faint fragrance reached Ivan's nose, causing him to pause slightly before smiling more deeply. The Manchester Christmas Ball was the most grand celebration of the year. The school invested heavily, and students had to put in considerable effort. I was the host of the ball all through my junior high and high school years, so of course, this year was no exception. Manchester had high standards for its hosts, language skills were just a part. Status, appearance, and presence mattered most. And I was always the best choice. This was universally acknowledged. So, when I saw the notice for host auditions on the bulletin board, no one really paid it much attention. Lily even sneered, what's with the formalities? Mary is always the host. I took it in stride, turning up the English recitation in my headphones as I grabbed an application form. Why are you doing this? Lily asked, surprised. I enjoy outshining others in every way. I pocketed the form leisurely. You're so cocky. She teased just as Katie showed up out of nowhere to tell us someone had somehow signed Betty up for auditions too. Lily laughed louder. Does she really think having Ben teach her a bit of English means she can beat Mary? I casually tied up my hair, the corners of my lips curling upwards. True to the plot of any stubborn heroine, Betty was participating in the selection. She had improved significantly, her speech much more fluent, but her stage presence was shaky. She faltered the moment her gaze met mine. Ben had accompanied her, and even under the dim lights, he was mouthing words to guide her. Seems like his mom hadn't succeeded in intimidating him. I didn't make a fuss about it since I had more important matters to focus on. Public appearances meant a lot to me, even though the outcome was all but decided. Years of being on stage honed my abilities, so when I stepped up, I quickly hit my stride. Hosting was second nature to me. You couldn't deny that. After all, when Betty was still learning the alphabet, I'd long been practicing English dialogues. I received thunderous applause from the audience, familiar judges nodding in approval. This lifted my mood, and I happily treated Lily to afternoon tea. Still, I didn't expect Manchester to feel so small that I'd run into Ben and Betty on the way home. Betty wore her same old simple white blouse and jeans, though tearfully, she choked out, I really tried. I'm sorry. Ben gently wiped away her tears, speaking softly, you don't need to apologize to me. You've already done great. Betty was sobbing uncontrollably, leaning all her weight against Ben, her face flushed red. My mom said she wants to come see me, and I really want to make her proud. She's been through so much. Ben patted her back softly, reassuring, it's okay. I cursed my bad luck under my breath, but I've never gone out of my way for anyone. This path leads to my home, and I wasn't going to be intimidated by walking past them. Just as I was about to step forward, I heard a low chuckle behind me. Turning around, I found Ivan standing there. Looks like your fiancé isn't entirely honest, he said, half smirking. I tilted my chin up slightly, maintaining my composure. And? I replied. He's not good enough for you, Ivan stated bluntly. Nobody is good enough for me, I said confidently and continued walking past the two who were embracing. I've exercised enough patience with those two, but when I saw Betty's name on the host selection sheet, I slammed my fancy pen on the table in frustration. Katie, startled, took a few steps back and mumbled, the princess is gearing up for the hunt. My thoughts quickly drifted back to the two confessing their feelings on the path a few days ago, and a slight smirk appeared on my face. Good one, Ben, thinking you'd try me, I thought, my expression turning to stone as I headed to Betty's class, drawing eyes all along the way. Arriving at her class, I grabbed a random classmate to ask, where's Betty? Gym, they replied. Coincidentally, she's in the same PE class as Ben. I scanned the gym and didn't find Ben, but I did see Betty. She was chatting away with her French friend, giggling as if something awesome had happened. Yeah. She shed a couple of tears and scored a hosting gig. It's a good deal, no doubt. I silently observed, finally letting a mocking smile play on my lips as I headed toward them. Instantly, everyone in the gym seemed to stop what they were doing, watching me with curious apprehension. Before I could reach Betty, her so-called French friend stepped in my way. Alice wasn't just a friend, in the original novel, she was a half-French pal of Betty's. She stood there acting like she was defending her friend, saying in a snarky French tone, what do you want? Picking on Betty again? Trying to act tough in front of me, huh? I glanced at her disdainfully and replied in fluent French, who do you think you are talking to me like that? Without caring for her reddening face, I shoved her aside. Betty was still sitting on the steps behind her, no way would I let her sit so comfortably. Taking a step forward, I grabbed her hair, forcing her to look at me. Mary. What are you doing? She cried, her eyes welling up with pain. I held her hair tight, not letting up, my voice sharp. Miss Betty, need a little jog down memory lane? The school insisting it should be me hosting. What could I do? She said, her eyes welling with tears. I laughed suddenly, releasing my grip. She held her head, trying not to cry as she staggered to her feet. They insist you host? I sneered. With your lousy accent? Awful stage presence? Or is it because of that guy you were hugging a few days ago? You're lying. Her voice went sharp, panic etched on her face. Without hesitating, I slapped her cheek hard, her face snapping to the side as tears flowed uncontrollably. How can you hit someone at school? She cried, clutching her face. Do I need an appointment to hit you? I raised my eyes, staring down at her coldly. Think you can compete with me? Mary. Ben's voice, filled with urgency, came from the doorway. He was rushing in, afraid Betty might take another slap if he delayed. I lazily looked over at Alice, who was still fiddling with her phone. What's wrong with you? Ben's frustration was written all over his face, but before he could say anything else, I slapped him hard across the face. Everyone in the gym gasped simultaneously. The clean tiles reflected the girl's elegant stance. Even while she was hitting someone, she did it with straightforward style. Her pretty face bore a mocking smile, emitting a chilly aura. Shut it. Who do you think you're talking to? I scoffed. His face was grim, and I continued coldly. No one can take what's mine, especially not with these sick tactics. Consider carefully before I escalate this further. I'm not above dealing with you again. I better not see this nonsense again. With that said, I walked forward unfazed, pausing briefly near the tearful Betty. Unless you want more slaps, keep your dirty thoughts to yourself. Walking in heels was tiring, but when the sound reverberated through the gym, it was worth it. Katie described my actions as a lesson for fools who didn't know their place, saying that even dogs would feel the heat when I got mad. But nobody dared to criticize my overbearing style. After all, in the hierarchy of Manchester, I was surely at the top. Mary from the original novel was too low-key, that's why anyone dared to mess with her. Lily was drawing eyeliner meticulously as she chimed in, but you need a dance partner for the Christmas dinner, don't you? You always went with Ben. Who this year? I paused for a moment, a sophisticated figure popping into my head. Dance partner? Ivan, sitting opposite me while cutting his steak, heard this and looked up. Half an hour ago, I caught him outside his company. That led us here. Even though Ivan had spent years abroad, his company was thriving beyond measure, marking him as a formidable presence among the young generation. I didn't overthink it, I just knew the dance partner had to be more handsome than Ben, and this convenient brother fit the bill. Sounds fun, he paused. No. Are you messing with me? I fumed. He seemed to enjoy seeing me riled up, his lips curling slightly in amusement. I'm somewhat of a successful man. If you want me as your dance partner, shouldn't there be some form of payment? Cash? That was a relief, I had plenty of it. How much? I asked. Who said I wanted money? He put down his utensils, interlacing his slender fingers. How about you accompany me to a dinner event? I happily agreed to Ivan's request. A few days later, Ivan showed up right on time to take me out for a makeover. When I walked into the ballroom draped in a burgundy satin gown, arm in arm with Ivan in his black suit, all eyes turned to us. With a smile plastered on my face, I quietly asked, am I too stunning today? Ivan gently swirled his wine glass, the clear glass reflecting the careless smile on his lips. You've always been beautiful, haven't you? Ivan's status was way higher than I imagined. Quite a few big names in the business world, ones I knew of, came up to toast him. He seemed so at ease, always maintaining that small smile and distant demeanor. I looked around helplessly, then caught sight of a familiar face that matched the scenes in my mind unexpectedly. I stared at Betty in a puff-sleeve gown, dolling herself up with delicate makeup, looking more playful than usual, and then looked towards the man opposite her. James, Mary's childhood friend from the book, and someone with a big reputation in Manchester. In the original plot, Betty worked at a Western restaurant and accidentally ran into James, who was forced into a blind date. James had been rebellious since he was young, and to escape the blind date, he used Betty as a cover. This banquet might just be part of James' growing feelings for Betty. I call it the contrast appeal boost. One moment, she's a plain server girl, and with some glam, she suddenly transforms into a princess, naturally causing a stunning visual effect. I recalled James from the original plot, although a bit of a playboy, he was sunny and kind. How come when he's near Betty, he does such brainless things? Ivan, I poked his arm. My friend is over there. I want to say hi. Sure, he said. I gave him a weird look, like, who asked him to come along? But since I had something to ask him later, I kept my mouth shut. When I walked toward them, Betty instinctively touched her still blushing face and shrunk a little. But the next second, her gaze couldn't help but drift to the man beside her. James, on the other hand, was delighted and greeted me warmly, Mary. I ignored Betty for the moment, just noticed the undisguised admiration in her eyes, and sneered inwardly a bit. So, you went on a blind date? James' smile faltered, and he complained, I'm so done with my dad. I already said I don't want to, but he kept pushing me to have dinner with some rich heiress. So, don't tell me you bailed. I glanced meaningfully at Betty standing next to him. Oh, forgot to introduce, this is Betty, also from Manchester, James said, turning to Betty to introduce me. Betty, this is Mary, my childhood friend. James really didn't get it. It was obvious Betty felt intimidated. I didn't bother greeting Betty, just frowned. You ditched your date, Miss Candy, and came here with it. I paused, to attend the banquet? James, since when did you start doing such ungentlemanly things? How do you know Miss Candy wouldn't want to spend time with you? You forgot even the basic respect, huh? My cold tone telling off seemed to snap him awake. Right, why did he think of pulling Betty in as a cover? He could have just finished the meal and politely declined. But it was done now. He rubbed his hair, agitated. Seeing him like that, I knew he got it. Not wanting to tangle with him any longer, I didn't spare Betty another glance and just dragged Ivan away. Betty carefully tugged on James' sleeve, pretending to say casually, why would a friend embarrass you in public though? I didn't mean Mary, I'm just worried about you. James patted her shoulder reassured, Mary's just like that, she means no harm. Besides, she's right. I was impulsive today. Realizing James didn't catch on to her meaning, Betty nodded obediently, but inside, she was seething. Backstage at the Manchester Christmas Gala, I finished putting on my lipstick and gave my long curly hair a final touch. Unluckily, Ben was the male host for tonight's event. I heard that the senior who was supposed to host had some emergency, so they handed the job to Ben. The backstage was filled with flower baskets from my friends. Lily was especially generous, she sent a whole line of them. Katie came over with the microphone and whispered in my ear, another big load of flowers just arrived at the door, and Lily said the floral style is definitely the work of top florist Coral. It's not easy to book them, and the visual effect is stunning. I nodded. All the flowers from my friends were here. I glanced suspiciously at Ben, wondering if some fangirl of his sent them. But I couldn't think of any heiress in our circle who fancied him. Ben's family might be well known, but his mom was originally a mistress who climbed her way up. So, Ben isn't exactly legit in that sense. Only someone as naive as Mary in a novel would agree to such a marriage. Who's Miss Mary? Your flowers are here. I was taken aback, staring at the beautifully arranged cappuccino roses. They instantly became the most eye-catching part of the backstage. I stood up and picked up the postcard hanging from the bouquet. To the most dazzling Princess Mary, break a leg tonight, Ivan. When the hosting segment was over, the lights in the dance floor slowly came on. I looked around but didn't spot Ivan anywhere. Just as I was about to make a call, the crowd erupted in cheers. I glanced up to see both James and Ben simultaneously reaching out to Betty on the edge of the dance floor. Betty was standing there, surprised and covering her mouth, her eyes sparkling. One was Mary's childhood friend, the other, Mary's admired fiancé. They effortlessly made Betty the center of attention, as if no one noticed that the hand Betty took still belonged to someone else's fiancé. As Betty and Ben stepped into the center of the dance floor, she shot a smug glance in my direction. Most people watched me like they were waiting for a show, whispering among themselves. Look at Mary, she's usually so proud, but her fiancé chose another girl. Dear lady, I'm sorry I'm late. As an apology, may I invite you for a dance? As the crowd parted for him, Ivan, dressed in a bespoke suit, had a maturity that far surpassed any of the guys on campus. He bowed politely to me. The girls couldn't hide their amazement, until they saw the man reaching out to me, their amazement quickly turned to admiration. Even the spotlight knew better than to not shine on me. I looked back at Betty with disdain. What you worked so hard to get is something I can discard with a snap of my fingers. Cinderella's magic fades after midnight, but a princess is always a princess. The hot topic on the school forum still has my name on it, and everyone is talking about who the man with me tonight was. I slipped away from the mix of perfumes and ducked into the restroom, only to bump into Betty. She still couldn't look me in the eye, and I just ignored her, but then she couldn't hold back from speaking up. Mary, I know that guy you were with just now is your brother. You still have feelings for Ben. Her eyes were darting around, and she was fiddling her fingers. I'm not trying to steal Ben from you, but it seems like you've always misunderstood me. I only see him as a good friend. I almost laughed from anger. What a nutcase. Who gave her the idea she knows me so well? I shot her a sarcastic grin, like I was looking at a clown. If you hadn't saved Ben back then, you wouldn't even have the right to stand here and talk to me. I turned to leave, and just as I reached the door, I felt Betty move forward, trying to grab me. I shook her off with disgust, but I heard a scream as Betty's low heels twisted, and she fell to the floor. Betty. I looked up to see Ben and James rushing over to Betty. I'm sorry, I lost my balance. Betty's eyes were getting red as she grabbed Ben's sleeve. Mary really cares about you. James frowned. Mary, what's going on with you lately? I've heard things at school, and this isn't like you. I glanced at him coldly, catching him off guard with my look. James, you jumped to blame me without knowing the facts. Are you saying I pushed her? Mary didn't push me on purpose. Betty was rushing to defend me. Ben checked Betty's ankle, determined there was no serious injury, then slowly stood up. Mary, haven't you had enough? From start to finish, you've been targeting Betty. What did she do to you? I adjusted my dress and replied calmly, Ben, if you're so protective of her, why not ask your mom to cancel our engagement? Seeing his silence, I smirked. You can't give up everything for Betty, can you? How much of the little you have comes from this marriage contract you despise? Oh, and by the way, cheating with someone else's fiancé is a pretty big mistake. I looked back at Betty. I don't get who gives you the nerve to question me. If I wanted to slap you, I'd do it openly, not set up some dumb trick. So lively here. As soon as I said that, Ivan appeared, his usual aloof look now a bit unpredictable. I never knew this is how your family treats Mary. Ivan took it to a family level. Everyone went quiet for a moment, with Ben paling. Silently standing behind me, Ivan gave me strength. Normally laid back and uninterested, he now wore his gold-rimmed glasses with a serious look, his eyes dark. Sorry, I misunderstood you. Hearing Ben apologize, Betty looked devastated, staring at him with tightly clenched fists. Ivan turned to James. Sorry, Mary, I was just worried. Finally, Ivan glanced at Betty, who was struggling to stand, then turned to me gently, Mary, since this lady mistook it as you pushing her, why not let her feel what it's like when you actually push someone? I lifted my eyes, took a step forward, and gave Betty a full-force shove to the ground. Maybe family talk weighs heavy for you, but do you know something? I hold 40% of Manchester's shares, not to mention my family's many ventures. My point? If I wanted to mess with you, think they can protect you? On the way home, Ivan doubted my taste for the first time. I waved my hand. Back then, I was blind. He paused for a moment. You can still change your mind. Thinking he was joking, I played along. So, will you help me break off the engagement? He nodded. Then who knows who I'd end up engaged with next? He pointed at himself with a cheeky smile. How about me? After my family sent the cancellation notice for the engagement, Ben's parents rushed over with gifts, dragging Ben along to apologize. Mom had heard about the school incident, got mad, and called Dad abroad to vent. While the adults negotiated in the living room, Ben's mom shoved us into the backyard to talk things over. Ben shot me a look of disbelief that I'd actually suggested canceling the engagement. Mary, get real. Do you think breaking it off with me will gain you anything? I smiled a little. Ben, I don't owe you anything. Our engagement was a joke the moment you got involved with Betty. Our family won't place trust in someone who lacks commitment. He had nothing left to say. Breaking off the engagement with Ben caused a stir in our circle. Ben's father was furious and scolded him. Then he began searching for a new match. But with a past like his, no respectable family wanted to align with theirs. Still, someone as ambitious as Ben's mom wouldn't let Betty marry into their family. Seeing the fancy desserts on my table, Lily sneered. Can you believe this Ben guy? Ignored you when you were engaged, now he's trying to play nice since it's off. I tossed the treat to Katie. I understood when he stayed quiet the first time I asked. Ben only ever loved himself. Betty, though, couldn't sit still. She finally found a chance and stormed up to me, demanding, didn't you say the engagement was off? Why is Ben still doing this? I fiddled with my new bracelet, too lazy to even look up. Didn't you say he's just a friend? How can you get mad over a friend's flattery? Her face turned green. When Betty was forced out of Manchester by Ben's mom, she showed up red-eyed at Ivan's apartment, where I was staying temporarily. I frowned. Shouldn't you go find Ben's mom? She ignored me, accusing me of getting her kicked out of Manchester, and after some sifting through, I got it. She fooled around with Ben, I ended the engagement, Ben's mom got mad and transferred her, so it was somehow my fault. Betty, ever think that without Ben, you couldn't have even gotten into Manchester? That's a world you don't belong to. The mistress becomes the heroine, and the weakling turns into the male lead, a backward story from the start. I left her alone, heading upstairs to Ivan, and buried my head in his chest. From that moment, the villain's aura started fading from around me, and the storyline began to fall apart. And I, in every sense, became the true leading lady of my life.